Castellanos Martinez, who's still on the loose, thought to be perhaps in Mexico. Dr. Jeffrey Mazin now joins us to share his son's story. I just want to give you a hug.
Thank you. Bless you for the opportunity to be with you.
Tell me about what happened to your son, because we've been hearing about, we're like Dachau and Auschwitz, our country, as Newt Gingrich said, there are a lot of people who hate this country. And the pain of the families that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrant cartels, criminals, hit and run, DUI, it's ignored by mostly the left and most of the media. I refuse to ignore these stories. I want to hear about Alexander.
Alexander was a very, very special individual. He was fitness-oriented. He was a very religious young man. He loved his God. He loved his country. He was quite the patriot. Quite the patriot. He was a small businessman. He was a good heart, if you would. And this gentleman, the young man, Alexander, was everybody's model, if you would. He had been dating a lady for a few months, and he was working out at the gym on one beautiful Sunday morning. He came out from the gym, and there was a man waiting for him in the parking lot, came behind him, shot him in the back. My son fell on the ground, face up. The man straddled him and pumped 4 more bullets into his chest. My son died there in the parking lot like a rat in the street. Obviously, every time I tell you that, the emotion pours out of me.
Did you ever hear from any of the major politicians in the state, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, any of the major figures, Sherry Brown?
No, none. However, Kristen Gaspar, one of our local representatives, who is really awesome, took Alexander's story to the president directly and presented it to President Trump. And President Trump's reaction was really amazing. He grimaced, he had tears coming down his face, shaking his head, upset. You could see the uncontrollable upset.
Nancy Pelosi went to a border facility yesterday, gave a big speech afterward, telling President Trump, how dare you basically do this to these kids. And look, nobody wants children to be separated from the families. But you really have been separated from your son from a lax border policy of an individual who was already deported once, voluntary deportation, and yet he came back again. Across, who knows, maybe it was up the fence away. We don't know.
He also has a history of having murdered another man in Mexico. So this man is a serial killer or a serial murderer. I call him a mass murderer because he not only murdered my son, he murdered me, he murdered my wife, he murdered my other son, he murdered the family, murdered the community, because the outpouring of upset from the community from our son's death has been overwhelming, really overwhelming.
What do you have to say to the politicians who are spending an enormous amount of their political energy and emotional, I think a lot of it conjured up, politically convenient emotion, for the current situation of separating families? What message do you have for them tonight?
Well, first of all, Laura, I wouldn't want to say it on air, but I'll clean it up a bit. And if one of their loved ones were to have died like my son died, I wonder if their ideas and their ways of presenting things and thinking would be different. I just wonder. It's easy to sit back and say, oh, well, these poor children, this, that, and the other thing. How about we poor citizens? And how about my poor son? Because he's been permanently separated from us.
I know your wife couldn't come on tonight. She was just too overcome. And I want you to tell Penny and your entire family how much we really are so sorry for your loss, and I'm going to do everything in my power to try to help you and to try to help this country and get through this thing, because this can't keep going on.
Well, I thank you for that and bless you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
And Chuck Schumer ends up slipping up, gives away the Democrats' real agenda. I don't think Chuck Schumer called you either, Dr. Mazin, right?